What's going on YouTube? So the Toyota Grand Highlander has proven to be a big sales success, just as we predicted when this model first launched. And today we're with the latest 2026 example to see if anything is new this year. So, is this the family SUV with 3 rows to beat? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's get things started here under the hood with a spec dump. So for 2026, the Grand Highlander continues to be available in a wide variety of choices. This is the standard option. It is a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, making 265 horsepower. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and with all-wheel drive, our combined fuel economy is 22 mpg. Now the base price in 2026 is sitting right at $41,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now of course later on we're going to be taking this out for a spin. While we're on that spin, we'll get a sound level reading, and at the end discuss resale and reliability. But let's go ahead and close up the hood because we need to take a look at the exterior, and of course the interior has a lot of features to discuss as well. So up here in the front, you're not going to notice any changes to the overall design for 2026. It continues with that signature Toyota look, which has a little bit of a boxy appearance for a more rugged look like the RAV4. Up here with our grille, you'll notice that we have a blacked out fascia through here. There's going to be a little bit of a difference depending on which powertrain you choose. The Hybrid Max gets a more aggressive lower fascia. And then we also have a little bit of silver accenting up here at the top for this platinum trim level you're looking at today. Now, taking a look at our headlights, we have standard full LED headlights on all models. However, the Limited and above get the more premium LED arrangement. It's projector low and high beam. We also have the LED daytime running light and turn signal indicator across the top there. And furthermore, we have LED fog lights. And as we walk around to the back, it continues with that signature Toyota design. Yeah, and let's break down some of the individual elements because there is one new feature for 2026. But before we get to that, we have a spoiler up here at the top, an exposed rear wiper. Our Grand Highlander is spelled out across the back, and let's take a look at our taillights. So our taillights are fully LED, so that's certainly very nice. You have your LED brake light and turn signal, as well as your LED reverse light. Now, when it comes to badging, that's actually what's going to be new for 2026. The hybrid nightshade trim level now gets black badging as standard equipment, so that's certainly a nice addition this year. Now as we drop down to the lower fascia, no exposed exhaust outlets for this standard gas platinum model. If you get the Hybrid Max versions, those will add exhaust outlets. Your tow rating comes in at 5,000 pounds for most models. The standard hybrid though can only tow 3,500 pounds. As far as the wheels are concerned, Grand Highlander begins at 18-inch alloys, and as you move up the trims, you go to 20-inch alloys. That, of course, is what you're looking at today. This is actually not the standard wheel that you get on the Platinum trim. That's going to be a lot more blingy than this. We have an optional wheel in today's example, which blacks it out and gives it a little bit more of a stealthy appearance. Now, around the wheels, you'll see the matte black finish for the wheel arches as well as the lower moldings. And as far as the mirrors are concerned, we have standard blind spot monitoring and heating. If you want power folding, you'll need to choose at least the Limited trim. Now at the side, this vehicle comes in at 201.4 inches in length. That is a very large option for the segment. I think that's really contributed to this vehicle's success because this is really, really big, and you'll see interior space a little bit later on. Now as far as design, we have chrome on the lower part of the windows, blacked out up top, and then we also have chrome roof rails. We have the crossbars installed as well. And then when it comes to your safety systems, Toyota does not mess around. You have all of your active safety features as standard equipment. Additionally, if you choose this platinum grade, that's going to throw in extra goodies such as the traffic jam assist. But guys, there's a lot to talk about on the inside and a really nice interior for this platinum. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12 and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point. No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, moving on to the inside. First, here's our key fob. You have a standard smart entry system, and you also have digital key supported. You can see you have Grand Highlander branding on the back of the key fob itself. Getting inside, just grab behind the handle, and that will unlock the door. Now, taking a look at the interior of this Grand Highlander, Mason mentioned the luxury of this model, and actually this has a little bit more of a luxurious appearance than some of the past Grand Highlanders we have reviewed, and we'll explain more about that in just a second. But getting into the seats themselves, this model begins with cloth seats. As you move up the trims, you move to a leatherette, and then you get to a real leather. That's what you get here on the Platinum trim level. As you can see, we've got a nice perforated design here with some color contrast finishes and piping. You can get 3 different color choices on the Platinum trim. Portobello is an exclusive color for just the Platinum from the other trim levels. Now, as far as the seat adjustments, all models have 10 ways of power adjustment with 2-way lumbar support. We also have memory seats as well. And let's climb on inside. Now let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. So like I was mentioning earlier, there are some differences here, and that's because in the past we have been reviewing mostly the Hybrid Max version of the Platinum, and Toyota actually changes the interior quite a bit. First of all, when you get the Hybrid Max, you get a different seat that uses a suede insert. Also, when we look over here at the door trim, you'll see that we have a lot of this faux wood trim. This is not available with the Hybrid Max. Instead, you have this bronze accented faux carbon fiber. Now, as far as other materials, we got a leatherette across the armrest. We have a leatherette finish across the dashboard as well, and then more of the wood trim through the center section and some stitching details. Also, we have some silver accenting on this Platinum trim level. That's not going to be on the Hybrid Max version of the Platinum trim. Now we'll fire it up with the standard push button start. So with the vehicle all started up, we'll begin with the gauge cluster as always and go through the individual details. This is the 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster. This is what's included at the limited trim level and above, and you can reconfigure this to a few different designs like you've seen on other Toyota products. This Platinum trim level also comes standard with a large head-up display. And as we move back to the steering wheel, we got a very traditional style Toyota design steering wheel. Heating will be included on the limited trim and also rain sensing wipers on the limited and above. The steering wheel is always manual tilt and telescoping, so that's kind of something that a few of the rivals give you the power adjustment on the top trims, and we have the heating like I mentioned already. Moving over here to interior storage, they don't call this Grand Highlander for nothing because this has a ton of storage all throughout the vehicle, but also especially here in the front. So when I open up our center console here, you're going to notice there's some donuts inside. Of course, we did the signature donut test, and this is a donut dominator because it fits 24 donuts in here with ease. And that, of course, is way above the 12 donuts required to pass the donut test, and it's our maximum. Up in front of that, we have our 2 cup holders. You have another storage bin right there. You have a wireless phone charging pad for all but the base model. You have additional storage over here on the left side. And we have a hidden storage compartment over here, plus a passenger storage compartment. So definitely a really huge amount of space up here, like I was saying. And that's despite the fact that this has a traditional shifter. Now, if you get the Hybrid Max powertrain, that will give you an electronic shifter instead, but most of them will come with this shifter. Pull back for drive, bump over here to the left for manual shift mode. You have paddles on the steering wheel. And then when you go into reverse, here's our 360-degree camera system. This is going to be standard on the Platinum trim level. And as you can see, you have overhead views. You can also clean your cameras. Back behind the shifter, you have an electronic parking brake and brake hold system. Now, right behind the shifter and those buttons, you'll see a few more buttons for various different vehicle functions, mostly our drive mode controller right here prominently in the center. This button here will launch your 360 camera. And let's move up to the climate controls next. So we have a standard 3-zone automatic climate system on all models. It's very easy to adjust. You have these big knobs and full physical buttons all through here. What we said in the past, and I'll say it again today, I do wish they were finished in the same color as the surrounding, so that they were piano black, because they just kind of look a little bit placed compared to the rest of the buttons. Nevertheless, I'm glad they're all physical. We also have heated seat controls over here. Plus, if you get the ventilated seats, that will be on the limited trim and above. Also on the limited trim and above is our JBL premium sound system. Otherwise, you'll get a 6-speaker sound system as standard equipment. Let's give this top system a sample. Overall sound quality is certainly pretty decent. It fills up the cabin very well. It's just a very bass heavy sound system. So if that's the type of music you listen to, I think you'll be satisfied with the JBL. All right, now taking a look at the main infotainment screen, Toyota doesn't mess around with the sizing of this. You get the 12.3-inch screen as standard, even on the base trim level. This has Toyota's newest software, so it's very simple to use. You have features like navigation if you get the limited trim level. Also, you have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay standard on all the trim levels. Up top, we have an auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink remotes built in. Also, since this is the Platinum trim, that gives you the digital camera rear view mirror. That way, even if you have the back window blocked, you can still see out the back. And at the top here, I'll slide back the sunshade for our panoramic sunroof. This is a standard feature on the Platinum trim level. It's also available on lower trims as well. And as you can see, you have the sunshade and also the front portion opens up. Now, the rear areas of the Grand Highlander are really family-friendly to the max, which I think, once again, has really contributed to this vehicle's success. Now, let's go ahead and talk about space figures first and foremost. We're sitting at about 39 inches of legroom, about 39 inches of headroom. Those are not quite class-leading figures for this segment, but it's certainly a good amount of space. And, of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler. I'm 5'9", and this seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". That gives us a realistic knee room figure, and we're sitting at 8.5 inches. That's certainly quite good. Now, my feet can also slide up underneath of the seat, and the seats do have the ability to slide all the way to touch the front seats. That's certainly nice for those of you with little kids, and we have the ability to recline a good distance as well. Now, you may have noticed that we have captain's chairs here in the second row. That's actually standard on most of the trim levels of the Grand Highlander. You can get optional bench seating if you need the extra seating capacity. By the way, the maximum seating capacity is 8 passengers. As you see today, this is 7-passenger seating. If you have the captain's chairs, you have 2 cup holders here in the middle. You can also fully remove this as well, which was a feature they added last year for extra customizability. Now, here in the center, we have our own zone of climate. Additionally, a lot of the models will give you heated back seats, and here on the Platinum, you get additional seat ventilation. That's certainly a really nice touch that a lot of the rivals still are not including. We have 2 USB ports as well, a household outlet in the middle. And then let's take a look over at the door trims. The door trim's going to be nicely done. We have rear window sunshades, once again, on most of the models. It's a little cheaper when it comes to materials. It's kind of soft touch, but mostly hard through the middle, and we have a leatherette armrest pad. A little bit more storage up in the front area. Tons of door storage down in the bottom. And then if you're curious as to where your vents are, they are located up here in the ceiling. Now let's go ahead and check out the third row. In order to get back here, it is quite easy. You just grab this little lever right here. That's going to release the seat and allow it to slide out of the way. Do be aware, though, that the back does move. And let's go ahead and hop back here into the third row itself. Now, one of the other things that's really grand about the Grand Highlander is the third row. So we're sitting at 33.5 inches of third row legroom. That's really good for this segment. That is actually the biggest thing that you can get in the entire segment. About 37 inches of headroom. So like I said, I'm 5'9", and I do still have a little bit of extra headroom, so that's certainly quite nice. And I brought the official Car Confections ruler back here as well. Even with this seat slid all the way back in its tracks, we're still sitting at 2 inches of extra knee room. My feet can slide up underneath of these seats, and I find these seats to be quite comfortable. They're raised quite a bit off the ground, so I have pretty good thigh support. Now, when it comes to features, there's a lot of features as well. So we actually have, looks to be 3 cup holders here in the third row. We have a USB-C port and vents coming out of the ceiling here. I wish this was padded. That's about the only thing I'm going to complain about back here. So as far as how this rates on our third row rating scale, I'm going to say this is absolutely fit for adults. Walking up to the tailgate, as long as you get the limited trim or above, you'll have the hands-free power tailgate. And let's talk about cargo capacity. That's another great thing for this vehicle. So we're sitting at about 21 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. If I reach up here and fold them down, which honestly, I wish they had included a power folding third row. That is something that the Grand Highlander cannot get, and honestly, it's not the easiest third row to fold, and especially at this price point, you should have that feature. That's going to give you 58 cubic feet behind the second row of seats, and with all the seats folded, you have a maximum of around 98 cubic feet. That is absolutely incredible for this segment. And speaking of this segment, there are a ton of options that you could be looking at, things like the Traverse, the Honda Pilot, all of those vehicles. We'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings, because we've gone through all of those options and ranked them in the 10 most important categories to buyers in this segment, and you can sort and see what might be your best options depending on what matters most to you, whether that be cargo capacity, third row room, interior luxury, powertrain choices, reliability. All those things are detailed there for you, so if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely check that out. Now, there are not any handles to fold the second row, so let me go ahead and do that from the second row. And now that I've got those seats folded down, let's go ahead and get our cargo length, width, and height figures. So as far as cargo length, from behind Drew's 5'8" driving position, 91 inches of length. That's really great. From behind the second row, with it slid all the way back, 53 inches of length. Behind the third row, 22 inches of length. As far as the opening, that's 49 inches wide. That is incredible. And height comes in at a whopping 32 inches as well. All those figures are really good for this segment. As far as the load-in height, that's coming in at 32 inches as well. If I lift up the floor, there's a little bit of extra space, and you also do have a spare tire on the Grand Highlander. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Toyota Grand Highlander. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also get things like our sound level reading. But first, we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration so you can see what the powertrain is all about.
All right, there is our acceleration to 60 miles per hour with the Grand Highlander. So, like we mentioned at the spec dump, one of the things that honestly make the Grand Highlander stand out a lot against the competition is that you have a wide variety of powertrain choices, and you can just pick what matches your lifestyle the best. Now, what's standard is what we're driving today. This is the 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. This makes 265 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. In terms of how this compares to many of the rival standard engines, it is pretty much in line with most of them. Power's down just a little bit, but you have quite a bit of torque since it's a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Also, of course, as we were talking about, you've got two other choices. So you have a hybrid, kind of a traditional hybrid. That one's going to have a little less power than this setup, but it will get way better fuel economy. And then you have the Hybrid Max, and that gives you both better fuel economy than this and a whole lot more power.
Yeah, so you can see the full power figures and all of their information on the screen right now. There's a lot to talk about, and one of my favorite things about the Grand Highlander is that they do give you a lot of choice. So for those of you that just want a straight gas engine, if you're concerned about reliability or whatever, and you just want the simple stuff, this 2.4 turbo is probably going to be a great option for you. We've driven the Hybrid Max plenty of times on this channel as well, so if you'd like to check out a review of the Hybrid Max, we have done that several times, so you can go ahead and check that out as well. It's definitely a really powerful option for the segment. It's really one of the fastest options you can get in the entire segment.
Yeah, you can certainly feel the low-end torque with this engine, and 0 to 60 is about 7.5 seconds for this. One thing I do want to note about this is, of course, being a turbo 4-cylinder, you're going to have a little bit of a different character compared to some of the competition, which still have a traditional V6, for example, the new Palisade and the Honda Pilot. Those engines will give you a little bit more of a refined sound characteristic, as well as like noise, vibration, and harshness all around. But this is not too bad. This is the same engine that they use actually in the Lexus TX 350. Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, we've got an 8-speed automatic transmission. This is also nice and smooth and a good partner with this powertrain.
Yeah, and power is routed to the ground via the front wheels or optional all-wheel drive. Let me also quickly hit our fuel economy figures. I'm sure you're curious about that. So the gas all-wheel drive, like what we have today, is sitting at 20, 26, 22 mpg combined. That's okay when it comes to fuel economy. It's certainly not the best fuel economy out there. However, it is in line with most of the standard engine options in the rivals. However, if you're really fuel economy focused, get the traditional hybrid model. The traditional hybrid gets 36 miles per gallon. That's fantastic fuel economy. I really can't think of any other option in the segment that you're going to get better fuel economy than 36 mpg out of a huge SUV like this. And then the Hybrid Max, like Drew was mentioning earlier, is kind of the middle ground. That comes in at 27 miles per gallon combined. So it's a little bit better than this, and you also get way more power. All right, we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour. I went ahead and toggled the rear climate off. All of our vented seats are off, and we have it on fan speed 1. Let's see just how quiet this Grand Highlander is. Very nicely done. 52.8 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading in the Grand Highlander. Now, we don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to all of its other 3-row midsize SUV rivals. You can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. And indeed, that does place this as one of the quietest options in the entire vehicle segment. That's really fantastic. Now, we previously had tested out, Grand Highlanders, and they were sitting, also pretty quiet, and this basically confirms that. And I want to point out that we even have things like the crossbars installed. You can see those on the moonroof right now. That typically adds to a little bit of a louder cabin. So I'm happy to tell you that you'll have a nice and quiet one here with the Grand Highlander. Also going to be great with the Grand Highlander is your ride quality. So as you saw just there with the bridge abutment, we have really great ride on this vehicle. So we're sitting at 20-inch wheels on the outside. You have really soft and supportive seats up here in the front, and the suspension just does a great job. Now, they're not going to have anything fancy going on with adaptive dampers or anything like that, but they've just really done a good job of tuning the suspension to be exactly what families are wanting. It's super, super comfortable on this model.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a different balance to the driving dynamic when you choose this standard model versus the Hybrid Max, because the Hybrid Max is, I don't know if I want to call it a performance option, but it is a lot higher performance. They do tune the suspension a little bit more aggressively to help that to have a sportier handling characteristic. This one here is all about comfort.
All right, let's get into our Slam Dunk and Airball. I'll go ahead and kick us off with the Slam Dunk and just say, you've seen it throughout this entire video. This vehicle is a car that just nails the family aspect of things when it comes to comfort. When ride quality wise, we have a ton of space in all of the rows as well as the cargo department. It really just checks a lot of boxes off for families, which is why this vehicle has been a sales success already. I think they've already sold 100,000 of these as of the time of us filming this in 2025.
Yeah, for sure. Now, on the Airball side of things is that Toyota makes you pay to play. So these models are typically going to be some of the highest priced options in the segment. And it's particularly if you get on the lower end of the trim structure, it's still going to have a pretty high price tag and not a ton of luxury or extra goodies and features that you might want to see and that you do get in some of the competition. They kind of make you move up to really about the limited trim to unlock those goodies.
And before we wrap up, I do want to point out the powertrains. You cannot get every powertrain on every trim level. There's quite a lot going on when it comes to that. So you can see a text box on the screen right now with all of your powertrain options based on each of the trim levels. Now let's discuss pricing. So I'm happy to tell you for 2026 model year, Toyota didn't raise the price a ton. You're only looking at about between $400 to $500 on most of the trim levels, so that's not a huge price increase. That's certainly good news. We start at $41,360 for the base LE with front wheel drive. Of course, there are a ton of trim levels and a ton of powertrains with this model. You can see all of the prices on the screen right now if you want to see the full lineup. What we have today is the 2026 Grand Highlander Platinum all-wheel drive, so the standard powertrain. We also have a slew of accessories as well as those $1,600 wheels. $1,495 destination. All told, we are looking at $60,633 as tested today. If you're curious as to where this vehicle is manufactured, it is assembled in Princeton, Indiana, so it is here in the U.S. Now, if you're looking to buy a Toyota Grand Highlander or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealer negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of all that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that in our video description, as well as a pinned comment down below. But buying a vehicle like this is about more than just the original price, so let's talk about resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, we took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Toyota Grand Highlander's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 64.5% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 41.4%. Now, it's worth noting those are really fantastic resale value percentages. It's actually one of the very best brands of every vehicle make that we look at, and it is higher than most of its competition.
Now, the same can also be said when we're talking about reliability. So we designed something called the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several reliability studies from trustworthy sources and combines them in a way that gives you the most holistic picture. When combined with the latest data, Toyota is rated as the #1 automaker for overall reliability.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability, our resale values, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Lastly, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000-mile powertrain warranty. Additionally, you do get 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Toyota Grand Highlander. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we really hope you did, we'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel and cover all the latest cars on the market. I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.